The economy is not doing well. Prices continue to go up, unemployment's getting worse, we're struggling as normal day people, but GDP is also going up. The stock market continues to hit new highs, and silver and gold are on record runs right now. And this is all because of the 1%. You see, they ain't feeling the economy pinch like we are. They're still doing pretty good for themselves. And this dilemma is going to change a lot of things when it comes to the United States economy moving forward. Before we get to that, we first have to understand why normal day people are struggling and the 1% is doing better than they ever have. And it comes to these two graphs, unemployment and GDP. Now, clicking on this video, I'm sure you probably understand what unemployment and GDP are. And so I'm going to explain briefly in simple terms how these two graphs correlate. So if GDP is doing well, usually unemployment is low, because GDP is the production and selling of the US economy in basic terms. And if we're producing more, making more stuff, and selling more stuff, then usually unemployment is low because we need more workers to make that production or to sell that product. But when we make too much stuff, then inflation increases. And when inflation increases, stuff starts to cost more. And when that happens, the Fed has to tighten the economy, i.e. raising interest rates. This makes it harder to borrow. And when businesses are struggling to borrow, they need to cut back on production. And when they cut back on production, hiring freezes, unemployment starts to rise because we don't need as much product and we don't need to sell as many things. So those jobs that people got from a good economy are going to slowly start going away. And so usually when GDP decreases, unemployment increases. That's kind of the balance between the two. However, that's not what's happening right now. GDP is going up. Right now, it's about 4.6, but unemployment is also steadily rising. If this isn't usually how it happens, why is GDP and unemployment going up at the same time? That's because of a little thing called AI. Ever since COVID, the growth of AI and automation has rapidly increased. And with that, it gives the power to businesses because AI and automation allows a worker to do more work than they normally would. A task that usually takes about 4 to 5 employees to do now only takes 1. So since 1 employee can do the work of 4 to 5, businesses don't need to hire as much. So AI and automation, yes, it helps employees do more work, but it also takes jobs away from employees that a business would usually need. And so since we don't need as many employees, unemployment rises. But since we're still producing the same amount, GDP also rises. And so this is kind of the paradox that we're talking about. And this causes a problem for the middle and lower classes because it's harder to find a job when automation and AI are basically taking those jobs away from you. I mean, if we're talking about it from a business standpoint, their job is to make more money. And if they can make the same amount of money and not hire as many people, that makes them money because they're not paying salaries or paying money to have these employees. And so that's kind of how we're getting to middle and lower classes are feeling the pinch of the economy, but the 1% is still doing good because the 1% are the people that own these businesses. They're the stakeholders in these businesses. They own the stocks. They own the gold, the commodity. They're the ones who are still doing well because GDP is rising. Production is rising. The selling of this production is rising. Industries like finance and tech aren't currently hiring because they're the main ones that use automation, but they're also the main ones that make the most money. But small businesses, constructions, and restaurants, they're the ones that need the employees, but they're not driving the GDP. They're not driving the stock market. And so these businesses are not doing well. So they are not hiring. And so they're having to lay off people, while also finance and tech are not hiring, but they're still doing well because they have the automation to support the workload. And this just ever enlarges the wealth gap. When you have the rich still making money off of GDP and the stock market increasing and gold and commodities continuing to go up, they have access to the money to buy that, but the poor don't because they're having stagnated wages, unemployment's rising, it's harder to find a job, continuing prices increasing when it comes to food, health, utilities, housing, everything's continuing to go up. They can't pay for it, so they don't have the money to invest like the rich and the 1% do. So even though the Fed is probably right about a soft landing where unemployment might come back down, get to steadier levels. GDP will continue to rise. We have a bigger issue on our hands, and that is automation taking over the workforce. And businesses are going to prefer automation over paying real people real salaries. And so we're not necessarily like in a recession, but the economy for the middle and lower class is really bad right now. One thing to look at to see if the economy and we actually get into a recession is the unemployment rate. If that continues to go up, then yeah, we'll probably get in an actual recession. But what's more important is the middle and lower classes are going to probably be in their own recession for the foreseeable future. Moving forward, that's probably what we're going to see. You and I, our parents, our family will continuously be in a recession, while the upper class and the rich will continue to profit off of the innovation of automation, profits from the stock market, profits from stakeholding, and profits from potentially commodities. The forever recession is what we should call it, because I don't see anything that indicates that the wealth gap will shrink and that middle and lower classes will actually be able to afford anything.